are we all back, Tassos? Can we open the session?
We have 77 participants in the room, Miriam.
Yes, okay.
So I think that's pretty well everybody from the previous session has returned.
Okay, great. I think then we can start. So I would like to hand over to Johannes Klumpers. Welcome at our workshop, and you will be sharing the next session on the wrap-up of day 2. Please, Johannes.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miriam. Miriam, I must admit that I am maybe a little bit lost as regards the wrap-up. It felt already quite much like a wrap-up what was done just some minutes ago.
Yeah,
so,
I can imagine
tell me
that it's
what needs to be wrapped up in addition.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing maybe. So we just had the rapporteurs from the breakout sessions before, which were 6 breakout sessions, and now, as we also did yesterday at the end of the day, we would like to just pick out the most salient points of the breakout sessions and of the talks of today, and the idea was that you would do that with Per and Christos together, and that you would share that session, and then at the end Jan and myself would close the workshop with the take-home messages.
That's great. Thank you very much, Miriam. What I would suggest, if that's okay for Per and Patrick and Kostas, is that correct?
It's Per and Kostas.
Per and Kostas. Maybe if that's okay for Per and Kostas, I would maybe give Per and Kostas the word to summarize the most important points from their point of view. And I don't think that I will be able to really summarize, but I would like to highlight a couple of points which are, I think, important from my side before it then would go to you, Miriam, and Jan for the overall conclusions.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good.
Good, great. So that would be Kostas and Per then, I guess in that order, that's fine.
That's fine. That's fine for me. I can say a few words about session 4. I don't know if there was a moderator, a rapporteur for that session. It doesn't seem to be the case. Okay, so I can say a few words about session 4 that I chaired. It was a session called the present and future of EOSC, but it was basically a session about the 5 cluster projects that we have. As you know, there are 5 projects covering all areas, almost all areas. So they cover, we have a project covering the astronomy and elementary particle physics, another one covering neutron and proton sources. We have a cluster project on environment, ESFRIs, another one on the life sciences, and which one do I forget? And then we'll have another one, of course, on social sciences and humanities. We had 6 presentations because we had these 5 cluster projects, as well as a presentation on the common statement done by all these science clusters regarding their commitment to EOSC and their contributions to EOSC. So we had 6 presentations of more than 10 minutes each. So it was a very dense, let's say, a long session. There was at the end not much time for discussion. There were only a few questions throughout the session. I won't repeat, of course, these presentations that presented from each thematic area what are the major challenges and contributions to EOSC. But I would like to give some messages. Firstly, I want to say that this is really excellent in my taste. Pioneering work that has taken place, or that is taking place, and it breaks new ground towards open science. It's because these projects bring together all the main actors, so not only the service providers and the data the data professionals or the data scientists, but also a lot of the research communities. And this relates to a criticism that we often hear, and there was also aired in that session, that we should make sure that EOSC, the voice of the actual users, so the data producers and the data users, is stronger within EOSC governance. Therefore, these projects that bring also the researchers, or some of the researchers, into the picture are very important. The communities are, of course, very heterogeneous. On the one hand, social sciences, on the other hand, astronomy, and so on and so forth, are very heterogeneous. Some are very advanced in terms, for example, of making their data fair or open, or in terms of developing services, and whereas others are less advanced. They are very varied experiences. This is therefore very important that all these communities, these 5 communities represented by the 5 projects, continue to exchange and to talk to each other. There have been a couple of opportunities in the past. Today was another opportunity like this. I think it's very important to continue this and that they continue to have exchanges. This work overall of the project needs to continue. The major challenge will be to upscale now from this. So essentially, the 5 projects are developing 5 mini EOSCs, 5, let's say, small EOSCs, which needs to continue and upgrade it and to have an overall EOSC that cuts across all areas. They will therefore should continue to be involved in the SFRI development, as they already did with their common paper, but they should continue that also through the EOSC association that is will take up in the immediate future the job of developing the strategic research agenda for EOSC. This is it. These are my remarks from the session. Maybe I would like to make another point, which was actually from session 5, and I leave the rest of session 5 to Per, who comes next which comes next in the agenda. It's about the ERA communication that Anna talked about in the opening speech yesterday morning, and one of the actions that are under that communication that refers to to open science, and in particular, part of the action refers to reforming the research assessment system. So the research assessment system today, we believe that it pays too much attention to publications, to publish or perish, and and also it pays more attention to where you publish rather than what you publish, and therefore does not reward sharing, openness, and being fair, capital letters FAIR. So it will be, this is very complementary to everything that we have been discussing today, because for as long as the research assessment system, and when I say research assessment, I mean assessment of researchers, of research institutions, and of research proposals to funders. As long as this assessment system does not reward sharing of data and having data that can be findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, therefore our job will be incomplete. So it is like a kind of an announcement that next year, especially from the beginning of next year, we intend to engage in a major consultation exercise in which we'll see how we can take a step further in reforming this assessment system to make it more friendly to open science. Thanks, Johannes, back to you.
Thank you very much. That would mean that we go to Per for his intervention.
Okay, thank you. I jump back then to session 3 we had with the talks there, and it was a session on the report on the horizontal EOSC services along with future goals, and particularly here it was on the transversal and regional horizontal services and e-infrastructure. and EOSC thematic providers. So first out was Sverker Holmgren from the ERG, E-Infrastructure Reflection Group, who reminded us about that already in 2013 there was the concept of E-Infrastructure Commons was introduced here. Which was very much along the similar ideas here, first ideas along the lines where we now have in the EOSC vision. And so I could conclusion for that, it is important with this kind of platforms where experts and policymakers can meet and brainstorm a bit and so to say point directions for or advancement of the whole arena. It's also, Sverker also gave an overview on what is happening and the importance here of the structure on the national, in the infrastructures in the member states. And here I would say conclusion is that for EOSC to work, we need to be able to describe the infrastructures we have or the situation for open science and open data in the member states. Both from an organizational point of view and architecture. And here I think it's important for EOSC to be initiate such a work that need to take place if we are really opening up the assets of the member states in this sense. We moved on then to the regional EOSC projects. EOSC Pillar was represented here, but Fulvio Gagliassi. And we got enlightened how they work. The important thing here, how to understand what is going on on a national level, work with the various stakeholders in regions here around Europe to understand what they need out of EOSC, what the expectations are, and what various barriers. And that it's a work in progress, so to say. And that is very important. Then we moved on to a presentation by Tiziana Ferrari from the EOSC Hub, and the work that E-Infrastructures together with the research infrastructures there to figure out what the real action could be. And the take-home message here is, if I say that when working here together, really delivering something together, it is a complex task to build and to meet the real demands in terms of complex workflows that need all kind of different components here that research infrastructure and E-infrastructures can bring together. So there are but the wins are not easy in many cases. It is hard work and a lot of work that is needed. Then we saw from a specific community here, LEAPS, and we have large facilities and synchrotron facilities and neutron facilities presented by Helmut Doch. And here we see a real example how one can work a specific infrastructure, work very determined to open up and take practices also from other areas, nearby areas, how to make their data fair and so on. So I think it was a very, very interesting and very encouraging presentation there from Helmut. To finalize here, I tried to catch up some of the questions from the audience here also. And we discussed what are the main barriers or things that comes up, and goes over this. To finalize this, it was a question here, or really ask us to take really how can we make best use of the 20 years of pan-European research infrastructure development in ESFRI. And I think this is a very important. I mean, we have had at least 2 decades now of very strong development in research infrastructures, in e-infrastructures, and we should make sure that we really take all the knowledge we have built up there and what is working, what is not working, and bring this into the EOSC and the EOSC Association. Okay, thank you. What is next? We should say something, or I turn back to you, Johannes, there for drive us to the next item, maybe.
I am not quite sure, Per. What is the? I know that I will say a couple of words, but I don't know whether that is the next item. Whether there is something that is missing right now still.
Yes, Kostas. Yeah, we had the session 5 also, and the cross-fertilization between thematic and horizontal projects with a number of, and here we need to say something about this also. And let's go back if I had my notes here now. So, and we just came back from a series of feedback there from the different sessions. And if I bring something personal here, I think the question is still there, really, what is EOSC and so on. And that could be maybe surprising after all this work, but I think it is not so the question is justified in the sense that it is not a very clear message. I mean, I think the vision is clear, but what will be the role here of the different parts that is there now, like the EOSC Association. And I think this need to be formulated now. It is very important what will be the actual role of this EOSC Association that is there. And other than just, let's say, work towards the vision. And what will be the role of the various other stakeholders, the research infrastructures, the national infrastructures, and the member states, and so on. And that seems to be very, very important that is built there. In the group I was participating in, it was discussed as we introduced the concept of the EOSC Association as a facilitator here to that bring us towards the various goals that we set up for this. Okay. Maybe Kostas have something to add here on the session 5, yeah.
No, thanks, Per. Not really, in the sense that you made the summary in a more extensive way just half an hour ago, so I don't want you to repeat it. But just to answer your question on the what is the role of the association, that should be made very clear. I think, I mean, at least I was not there yesterday. I guess there were speeches about this yesterday, but the role of the association is quite clear in the sense that it is the same role that all associations have in these partnerships. So we have the EOSC is becoming a co-programmed partnership between the Commission and somebody, an entity that represents all the, or should represent all the stakeholders. And this entity is the association. So the role of the association is to bring together the commitments of everybody meaning all its members, and which are organizations covering the whole spectrum of EOSC actors. So research performing organizations, data users, data providers, e-infrastructures, service providers, libraries, and so on, the entire spectrum of users, and elaborating a strategic research and innovation agenda with a roadmap on what needs to be accomplished over the next 5 to 10 years. And so this is what the association contributes, commitments, and the SFRI and the strategic research agenda. The Commission, on the other hand, commits to to help implement part of this agenda. I say part because the Commission will only commit to implement the part of this agenda that needs to be implemented at EU level, whereas there will be other commitments, and there are already other commitments that are at organizational or national level. And therefore, the two sides work together to implement the agenda. The Commission does it predominantly through calls for proposals, maybe procurement sometimes. The other actors do it according to their own procedures, national calls, or at the organizational level. There is also a third body that's very important, which is the steering board of member states that provides strategic guidance into the future of EOSC and to the implementation of the agenda. So that was a little bit to, sorry if it was long, but to answer your question on what is the role of the association. Of course, the association should better respond to that. But since I don't think there is anybody, I mean, Karel or the others that are in charge right now, I do it on their behalf.
Thank you very much, Kostas and Per. Miriam, is it now up to me to say a couple of words before going to you and Jan?
Yes, perfect.
For the overall? Good, very good. Thank you very much, Miriam, and thank you, Kostas and Per. I would like to put this event a little bit in perspective. I think it is fantastic that this event has taken place and that we have started with the work on EOSC now in earnest and in all its practical aspects that will follow. I mean, data is such an important issue, as we all know. I mean, today the American one committee in the American Parliament have concluded that you will probably all have read it, have concluded that the power and that Facebook, Amazon, Google, and so on hold, because they hold all this data and that they have gathered and that they use and maybe potentially abuse, is something that needs to be tackled. We also have seen that when it comes closer to research, I have in my previous function, I'm now, for those of you who don't know me, I'm now the head of unit of the research infrastructures in the Director General Research in the European Commission. So I'm a direct colleague of Kostas. And previously I was dealing with science advice in the European Commission. And in that function, I was made aware, I was participating in workshops, and I was made aware that in previous science crises or in previous emergency situations, I'm not now talking for once about COVID, I can assure you that there has actually been a life before COVID, and there have been science advice crises already before COVID. And there was, for example, the Eyjafjallajökull eruption, the Icelandic volcano in 2010. And when their science advice was provided in the time, actually the reply to the crisis was delayed because of researchers retaining data which they first wanted to be published in a journal before they made it available to the services that were managing the crisis. The same has happened also with Zika. And I do not know to what extent it now happens still again with COVID. But so the handling of data is, from all angles, it's an extremely important issue. And as many of you have pointed out, we are here in a field of tension. Maybe some people might even feel it's like a kind of hornet's nest in which we are finding ourselves. So we are having tensions between open and proprietary, the protection of data, the right of citizens to have their own data protected, of course, tensions to, and what Kostas is saying, we are publicly funding with public money, we are funding research. And so it is somehow totally logical that what is coming out of this is also made available immediately to actually, to the benefit of citizens. And that would of course require that data is made available in a way that it can be reused and used in an optimal way by everyone. So there is a tension in all of this. And the open science as such, of course, also puts questions to research practices, to make methods available when you publish, to make the underlying data available when you publish immediately, and it might have an influence on the research careers and everything like that. So it is a huge area, and I think the Commission has been very courageous with its open science policy and with the launching of the EOSC, and that not everything is clear right from the start, I think is only normal when you are engaging in such an endeavor. So what we have to do, I think, is to go step by step to define tasks and maybe key milestones, like in every project, milestones. Where do we want to go? And what is great about, for example, this seminar that has taken place now the last 2 days, is that many people talk together about what these tasks are, what is necessary to make the data fair, findable, exchangeable, interoperable, and so on. And the task is huge. I think it was Patrick who was mentioning that in his session there was a variety of communities, and it was in all sessions that there was a variety of communities, but I think his example was at least to me the most striking, that he had the SCA, so the square kilometer array infrastructure in his panel, and also an infrastructure from humanities on Tapestry, if I have heard that correctly. And of course, when you look at this is so totally different. I mean, the SCA will probably create more data than every single infrastructure has ever created on Earth once they are fully operational. And the same is true when you are looking at colliders. There's such an enormous amount of data created in these infrastructures that you, of course, have to raise the question, and all of this data shall go to EOSC? Probably not. So you have to think of what that means for such a type of infrastructure when you compare this to a maybe social sciences, economics infrastructure, where the data comes from surveys, where the data comes from interviews maybe, or from certain economic or social measurements. It was mentioned also that in some areas there is maybe yet a lack of overarching data structures or methods, and that this work has now to start. And this is indeed, I think, what all this is about. And it has to start in terms of defining the tasks, in terms of breaking this huge endeavor down into different smaller tasks that can be handled. And what this will also, of course, obviously lead to is that it will facilitate interdisciplinary work. We all know, and for many years already, every one of us in this room is probably in favor of increased interdisciplinarity and of increased collaboration between the different scientific areas. And we all also know that this is actually not so easy. It starts with that the same word might mean different things in different scientific communities. Then it continues with that the data way of handling data is totally different in one area than in the other. But we also see that interdisciplinarity is really something that is not only a buzzword, but it is actually really required when it comes to providing from time to time solutions to problems. Like we just have now had the request, Kostas was in that meeting a couple of days ago, internally in the Commission, where those people, the advisors that the Commission advise on the handling of the COVID-19 situation, they came to the conclusion that maybe on the biological side, there is now a lot already organized how these infrastructures dealing with health data and with the virus data and so on, how they collaborate. But that actually what is also needed is a lot of information on society itself, on the reactions by citizens, and how they see, how they behave in the continuing evaluation of that crisis. So they clearly see we, on our biological data, we are not maybe enough to help the policymaker to find a solution, but we need to do it together with the social sciences. And this is just one example of where collaboration between the disciplines is necessary, and the EOSC and all the work that will be done on open science and all the work that you do within your research infrastructures on working on interoperability, on working on standardization, on agreeing on methods, on agreeing on making data available in a certain agreed format, and so on, will help this collaboration. And I think that it will be more or less my last words, is that it was also mentioned that one has to go beyond the research infrastructures, because that research infrastructures are so much involved in EOSC is fantastic, because they hold an enormous amount of data, and they are big, powerful institutions, and they do great work. But there are thousands of researchers in Europe, of course, who are not working in big research infrastructures, who are working maybe in very small places, who have never met a foot in one of these big research infrastructures. And they also are affected, and they in their research practices, by all what will be developed through EOSC. And they will probably also want to contribute to. So that's why these stakeholder forums and these exchange with the researchers at large, which was mentioned by a couple of people in a couple of sessions, I think is indeed very important, in addition to that fantastic work that now has started by the different research infrastructures. Miriam, with that, I thank you very much for having listened to me and the others. And congratulations again to you and Jan and the others who have organized this event. I think it is really, really good that you got that off the ground, and that very, very good discussions, as far as I could see, have taken place in all these different sessions.
Thank you very much for your kind words, and also for these very good reflection of the workshop at the end. I have one question for you that came through the question and answer facility. It's from Nico Villacorta from Helmholtz. And the question is, so RIs are organizing themselves now in new ways, and not only through ESFRI, but also the national research infrastructures, and they truly exchange data and pool computing resources together. So this is a EU added value that is created here, and how can this be better supported by the European Commission? That's the question.
I do not have an immediate. I have not given this thought. But Nicolas from Helmholtz, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, Nico Villacorta.
Yes, and I guess that Kostas and I, that we will both be totally happy listening to the ideas that are coming. I mean, we need your ideas anyway, because it can only be done with you. So feel free to suggest and to come up with suggestions.
Well, the idea is also that we will write a workshop report, of course, and we will share it with you. And then there is, of course, also possibilities to discuss then.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Perfect. Then I would like to close the workshop. Before I give the word to Jan, I would just pick out the most salient points and of the last 2 days and share them with you. And I would like to show you my presentation. So share my screen. Yes. Do you see the slide?
Yes. Yes, that's perfect. Thanks, Miriam.
Okay, thank you. So what was very important that came out is I think that the workshop was a big success, and there were, as Johannes already mentioned before, very, very good discussions and exchange of ideas. And the last event that the ESFRI Task Force organized was the data event in La Palma. And this was also about EOSC. And there we came out of the session where people asked the question, okay, well, now I still do not know what EOSC is. And this Per mentioned just also before, but I think we made a big step forward, and it's much, much clearer than 1 year ago. So this workshop was all about co-creating EOSC and to inform in one way the thematic RIs as key stakeholders on the developments in EOSC, and also develop EOSC's vision and priorities in collaboration with the research infrastructures. Important to ensure the EOSC, that EOSC addresses the actual research community needs is something that was repeated during the workshop very often, and provide a strong forum or role in governance to solicit user and the research community needs and inputs. And this is not only for the research infrastructures, but also for universities and researchers in general. So it became clear that there needs to be a consensus on an interoperable metadata framework, and this has to be agreed on in other fora such as RDA in order to federate national thematic infrastructures. Then the collaboration with the HPC and Euro HPC community is very important and has been looked into more in detail. Then it also was a point made yesterday that the EOSC Association membership fee does not cover the costs of operating the EOSC. And then today, the day with the Aos Cluster Projects. So the cluster projects cover the large thematic domains, and they are needed to create the European Open Science Cloud. And as Kostas said several times today, they are basically mini EOSCs and acting both as producers and consumers of data and services, interacting with horizontal providers at the national, regional and European level. And these clusters have to be expanded and enlarged to the long tail of science. And Federation of Services plays a very crucial role here. And here there's still a lot of effort needed and required, for which several technical details still need to be resolved. So the national building blocks and engagement of research performing organizations are key for the success of EOSC. That was mentioned in one of the presentations today. And another important issue is was mentioned by Rudolf in his presentation, saying that the EOSC end users are very important, and one could see them as a key performance indicator for the success of EOSC. And important is, and this is what we have to make true, is that the end users of EOSC find an added value in using the European Open Science Cloud. And then I come to my last slide, and this takes me back to the SFRI white paper, where there were 3 important messages that we stated with regard to EOSC. So what came out also during the last 2 days is that there is a clear recognition of the existing expertise within the research infrastructures, and there is a strong will of the RIs to exchange experiences and knowledge across the RIs, across disciplines, and at national and international level. And I think I would like to stress the SFRI white paper messages, because during the last days it became clear that they are still very valid. And so SFRI will continue to support the development of the European Open Science Cloud and the close connection of the research infrastructures to EOSC, with increased fair and open data sharing and availability to stimulate their interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary research to achieve the societal goals. And Horizon Europe should continue to support such developments. And this is a very important message. And then also that the European Commission, the member states and the associated states and the European Open Science Cloud are invited to take full advantage of the well-performing best practices in data management, storage, curation implemented at RIs at the ESFRI roadmap that already implemented fair and reproducible criteria for data, which operate them through open access portals and can contribute to achieving the EOSC long-term goal of research data interoperability. And then another issue, which is the last message of the ESFRI key message in the EOSC session of the ESFRI white paper, is that there is a vital need for data professionals in their education and innovation activities, and it should be considered to take appropriate measures to make this possible. And with that, I would like to hand over to Jan in a minute for the final remarks. And I would like to thank you on behalf of the ESFRI task force, all the participants of the workshop, all the speakers, the chairs, the moderators, the note takers, and also members of the European Commission to participate and make this workshop a very big success. And then, of course, also the whole Stress-Free and Athena team, which were doing all the technical details and all the preparation of the workshop in the background. And with this, I would like to hand over to Jan, the chair of ESFRI.
Thank you, Miriam. Colleagues, many things have been said. Many things will be presented then when taking notes of the messages discussed in this workshop. This will be certainly presented to you, and it will also build the basis for additional discussions in the different fora.
Jan, can you activate your camera?
Unfortunately, my camera gave up today, so I'm not able to share my screen here, and I have also not prepared any presentation, but nonetheless, I would like to have a kind of subjective reflection of the workshop here. But before going into that, let me really sincerely thank the ESFRI task force, and in particular Miriam, but also to Fotis, Vicky, Tassos, and all the team beyond the scene for having organized the meeting and made it to such a success. Really well done. Thank you all again. Apart of many positive effects, the workshop is a very important milestone in ESFRI's positioning towards EOSC, and Miriam has just cited our key messages from the white paper. This workshop comes indeed very timely for the discussions we are having among the member state delegations in ESFRI on the actions to be taken when preparing and implementing findings written down in the ESFRI white paper. The workshop, and it was said several times by others, made again very evident that the thematic research infrastructures, irrespectively whether national or pan-European, and EOSC have so many things in common, and they are much closer interconnected, and research infrastructures penetrate much deeper into the structure than originally thought. So research infrastructures are not only users and important data contributors, but as it has been demonstrated, they are also very important service providers and have to offer huge expertise in data management, data curation, interoperability. They've developed dedicated tools and services and are indeed forming a horizontally and cross-disciplinary interconnected research infrastructure ecosystem in which data are not only a commodity, but also a very essential element. I have said earlier that over 15% of the annual operational budget of research infrastructures are directly devoted to data services. This is just for the ESFRI infrastructures, more than 200 million euros annually, quite big money. Research infrastructures are not only the readiest data producers for EOSC, but they are potentially also very big in-kind contributors to EOSC implementation. If this deserves, as it has been discussed, a privileged position in EOSC has to be seen, but certainly cannot be neglected. We have heard from Anna earlier yesterday how important the research infrastructure for open science and the new era concept. And I firmly believe that the inputs from this workshop will be very valuable when discussing the role of ESFRI in the new era governance, the ESFRI EOSC interaction and positioning, the new mechanisms for communicating with the stakeholders, and many other issues which we have written down in our white paper. I also personally think that the discussion on research infrastructure EOSC interactions shall continue, and we shall find ways how to support it. I agree that, as said earlier today, and it is my personal opinion, research infrastructures deserve a more prominent position and their voice shall be more heard. ESFRI is there to support this process, and we shall discuss ways how to proceed. And finally, let me thank all of you for the vivid, relevant, and timely discussions. These discussions made the workshop really a success and very impactful. Thank you again.
Thank you very much, Jan. We will share, we will gather all the presentations and they will be made available for you so that you can have a look if you want. And we will prepare a report of the workshop that we will share with all the participants. Thank you all very much again. And with this, I would like to close the workshop.
Thanks all. The meeting room will close shortly.
Thank you very much, Victoria, for everything today.
You're very welcome, Miriam. I think it was well received by all accounts. Every session I sat in was positive and engaging for sure.
Yeah, very good. I'm really happy. It was a very good workshop. So thanks to all of you again.
Super. We'll arrange the next meeting of the task force with Fotis, where I'm sure we'll be able to do an internal wrap up of this.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Bye-bye,
thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Have a nice rest.
Thank you.
Thanks
You
so
too,
much, Tassos.
Tassos.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Shall we stay? No.
Hi, Madalena.
Hi, Tassos.
I think we are the only ones here.
Okay,
So talk to you over Skype.
okay. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.